Good day, students. Warm and hearty welcome to this new initiative from FAC 2601, where we'll be covering certain aspects contained within different lesson tools to assist you with your studies. Maybe just immediately a friendly disclaimer right up front. Please don't see these videos in isolation. You still need to cover all relevant study material. This is just an additional resource that will assist you in your preparation for taking our assessments during the course of the year. So we really hope that you will enjoy these sessions and find them resourceful and very helpful towards achieving success during the current semester. So just quick briefly about myself. My name is Frank Montgomery. I'm one of your lecturers for module FAC 2601. I am based in the Simon Rodapere building, office 231. Should you require a campus visit, please remember to schedule an appointment up front, please. There is my personal email address if you want to drop me an email, and that would be my contact number if you want to reach me by telephone. You can also obviously get in touch with any of our other lecturers on the module, which will obviously also be introduced to you during the course of semester, as they will be presenting similar type of sessions for our module. But those are our lecturers that you can also then contact in the module. Or you can make use of the Moodle message function. You will see there's an option to send a message directly to either of these lecturers or myself, and then we can react and respond to your specific question or query that you might have on Moodle. Or alternatively, this is an important email address to jot down now and keep track of. That is our dedicated model email address, fac2601@unisa.ac.za. That email is manned on a weekly basis, and if you send through a query, our aim is to respond within a period of 24 to 48 hours to the specific query that you might have. So even if you still have questions after our session today, you are then more than welcome to send an email through to this email address. Just indicate what it's specifically about, and you will receive the necessary guidance and assistance. So in general, obviously the session is recorded, and we have uploaded then obviously to Moodle, because this is where you will access it to view it, as will be done with the other sessions as well. Once you have viewed then the specific video, please then, as I've indicated, direct any questions you still might have relating to this presentation to the dedicated module email address that I have just shared with you. So the content of this specific session is dealing with the disclosure of remuneration, specifically with regards to directors and prescribed officers. And this is linked to lesson 2.1, which deals to the introduction to financial statements, where you'll be introduced to the term and content of directors and prescribed officers. And then also dealing with lesson 2.3, presentation of financial statements, because in the presentation of financial statements, one of the components that needs to be included specifically is the disclosure of remuneration. And for our purposes of this lecture, dealing then with directors and prescribed officers. So what I will cover today is the identification, obviously then, of who is a director, who is a prescribed officer, the calculation of the actual remuneration amount, and then how to disclose it in a set of financial statements. So that would be brief. What we're looking at is to identify who exactly is a director and prescribed officer, how do we calculate the remuneration to these individuals, and then finally how and where to disclose it in a set of financial statements that we are drafting. So this is covered in our Companies Act, and the Companies Act prescribes specifically that we disclose an amount of any remuneration or benefits paid to or receivable by persons in respect of the following: any services rendered as directors or prescribed officers of the company, or services rendered while being directors or prescribed officers of the company. So if they render a service as a director or a prescribed officer, they will obviously receive a salary for that. If services are rendered while being directors, that might refer to receiving entertainment allowances for their expenses that they incur to deliver these and render these services while being the representative of the company in the form of a director or a prescribed officer. So any amount that they receive in the form of remuneration or benefits needs to be disclosed specifically here. Or as well as being a director or prescribed officer of any other company within the same group of companies. So not necessarily rendering these services as being a director of our company, but if we are in a group of companies, any services that is rendered as being a director or a prescribed officer of any of the other companies still needs to be disclosed and included in the remuneration. Otherwise, in connection with the carrying on of the affairs of the company or any other company within the same group of companies. So therefore, any person that is carrying on and has the best affairs of the company to deal with, as long as within the other company within the same group of companies, then it still needs to be disclosed as part of the remuneration or benefits paid or receivable by these persons, whether they render those services as director or prescribed officer, whether the service is rendered while being a director or prescribed officer, if they are perhaps a director or prescribed officer of any other company within the same group, or if they are carrying on of the affairs of our company or any other company within the same group of companies. So what is a director? It's any elected member of the board of directors. So he's elected to be on the board of directors. Any alternate director. So alternate director is one that is standing in. If one of the elected members for the board of directors can't attend specific meetings, he will find someone that is alternate to attend this on his behalf. So alternate directors will also be appointed and have to be available to attend meetings should the primary director not be able to do so. Or it's any person occupying such position by whatever name designated to it. So if it is a position that has the best interest of the company and he has to perform activities normally and similarly performed by a director, that will also be classified as a director. And then finally, we need to distinguish clearly between executive and non-executive director. Executive director being one that is involved in the day-to-day running of the business. Non-executive, basically in an overseeing position, meaning that they will normally simply just attend board meetings to keep abreast of the activities of the company. So not necessarily involved in a day-to-day running of a company. What is a prescribed officer? This is obviously the person that is not a director, but still exercises general executive control and management of the whole of the company or a significant portion of the business of the company and activities of the company. So he is actively involved in the whole or a significant portion of the business and activities of the company. Or they regularly participate to a material degree in the business of activities. So it's not just a normal employee, they participate to a material degree in the running and business activities of the company. Now, the Companies Act provides us with a few examples. Those would be persons appointed as a chief executive officer, your chief financial officer, a regional manager, or a general secretary. So you would see that all of these persons will be able to contribute to the whole or a significant portion of the business or regularly participate to a material degree in the business and activities of a company. And then they will be classified as a prescribed officer. The Companies Act also refers to related persons, and you will see once we get to disclosure why this is important, because certain information with regards to a related person also needs to be disclosed with regards to remuneration disclosure. So related being individual to another individual if they are married, so if the director is married or lives together in a similar relationship, the other party would be a related person and will require some disclosure. Individual to juristic person being a company. So if this individual, our director, directly or indirectly controls the juristic person, this juristic person would be a related person to our director. Or if it's juristic person to another juristic person, so within our company, if either of our company directly or indirectly controls the other or the business of the other, this other company will be regarded as a related person, or if either is a subsidiary of the other. In other words, indirectly, or it still relates back to the control, having control over a significant portion of the activities of the company, they will be, the company will be regarded as a subsidiary. Or if the person directly or indirectly controls each of them or the business of each of them. Okay, with regards to this juristic person, if they're able to directly or indirectly control each of them or the business of each of them, that will also be regarded and seen as a related person requiring specific disclosure that needs to be made. So what is remuneration in terms of the Companies Act with regards to directors and prescribed officers? It's fees paid to the directors for services rendered by them to or on behalf of the company. Okay, and that would obviously include prescribed officers as well, as they fall within the same category with regards to disclosure of remuneration for the Companies Act. So these fees paid to them for services rendered by them or behalf of the company can include salary, bonuses and performance-related payments, any expense allowances for which directors don't need to account for. So if they receive an entertainment allowance, a traveling allowance, whatever that might be, it needs to be reflected as part of the remuneration. Any contributions paid under any pension fund. So if a company contributes on behalf of the director or prescribed officer towards a pension fund, that needs to be included and disclosed as part of our remuneration. The value of any options or rights given directly or indirectly to past, current or future directors or anyone related to them will be regarded as a remuneration and needs to be disclosed. So that includes your past, current or future director then obviously. Any financial assistance to past, current or future director or prescribed officers or anyone again related to them to obtain shares in the company or interrelated company, for example, in a subsidiary company. So any that sort of assistance provided to them also forms part of the remuneration and needs to be disclosed. Details of any loans or other financial assistance made to the directors or prescribed officers, again, forms part of the remuneration package and needs to be disclosed. So if we then get to disclosure, once we've identified if it's a director, a prescribed officer, a related person, what did they receive in the form of remuneration, what exactly needs to be disclosed in terms of the Companies Act. So again, as we're dealing with the benefits received by director and prescribed officer, it needs to include in remuneration and then obviously shown separately under remuneration, the amount of any pensions paid by the company to or receivable by current and past directors and prescribed officers. So that would be payment of pensions if they retire. It needs to be disclosed separately. Okay, and I've said, sorry, I missed the first one there. The remuneration benefits received by each director or prescribed officer needs to be disclosed. So that would be your salary, your bonuses, your allowances, those sort of things. Then the payment of pensions, as we've said. The amount paid or payable by the company to a pension fund for a current and past director and prescribed officers. So this again is the amount paid on behalf of the company, but to the benefit of current and past directors and prescribed officers, needs to be disclosed as part of the remuneration. The amount of compensation paid for the loss of office to current and past directors and prescribed officers. So if the term of a director or prescribed officer is ended before it was agreed upon, they will be compensated for the loss of office, and that payment that is then made need to be disclosed separately. So any compensation for the paying for the loss of office to current and past directors needs to be disclosed separately. The number and class of any securities offered to a director or a prescribed officer or related person, including consideration received by the company, needs to be disclosed separately. And we also need to include the details of the service contract of current directors and prescribed officers. What exactly are those details with regards to their service contract? It needs to be disclosed individually and separately for all the current directors and prescribed officers. Okay, with that, how do we apply it practically? And the best way is to go through a quick example to show how we identify directors, what type of directors and prescribed officers we have, what remuneration that they receive, and how will it be disclosed to comply with the Companies Act. So in our example, we have here forming part of our salaries and wages expense for the year. Following payments to top management of Simba Limited was made at the end of the financial year, being 29 February 2024. First of all, salaries was paid out to our financial director, Mrs. Salt, and she received 120,000 as salary for the year. Our regional manager, Mr. Chutney, received a salary of 90,000. Our managing director, Mrs. Vinegar, received a salary of 160,000. Then we also had a traveling allowance for our managing director of 6,000 that was paid. We had an entertainment allowance for our regional manager, 3,000 was what was paid. So these basically then expenses and allowance to carry on their service as being a director or prescribed officer of the company. And we also had pension payments. So this payment was made by Simba Limited on behalf of our financial director, Mrs. Salt, and they paid 12,000 Rand towards a pension fund for Mrs. Salt. And they also made a pension payment to the chairman of our board, Mr. Smokey. And Mr. Smokey was paid 6,000 Rand with regards to a contribution towards his pension fund. In addition, the top management were paid 625 Rand each per meeting to attend our directors meeting, which needs to be held during the current year. We had 4 such meetings during the year for both Simba Limited, our company, and then there's also a subsidiary company, Chips Limited. So Simba has the majority share and control over Chips Limited. Therefore, it is regarded as a subsidiary company, and it forms part of the same group of companies on which we need to report with regards to the remuneration of directors and prescribed officer. In addition, our financial director, Mrs. Salt, also is the chairman of the board of Chips Limited, the subsidiary company. And for this, she received a remuneration for 15,000 Rand for the financial year ended 29 February 2024. Okay, so being the chairman of that board, she received a payment of 15,000 Rand. So if we need to disclose the remuneration to directors and prescribed officers, it is disclosed in a separate note to the financial statements. Now, in this note, as we've identified previously, we need to show the different types of remuneration that they received. In this instance, we will distinguish between the director's fees that they received for attending the meetings. We will distinguish between the salary, and this will include the salary, any bonuses or performance payments that they received. Other benefits will include the benefits that they receive, for example, for traveling and entertainment. So all the allowances and expenses incurred by directors and prescribed officers will simply be included in other benefits. Pension fund, these would be the pension fund contributions that they were made on their behalf. We will also make a provision for loss of office if there was any loss of office. And then we also need to disclose how much was paid by the subsidiary towards the director or prescribed officer. Because when we disclose this information and when we report, we are only actually reporting on the activities of Simba Limited and not Chips Limited. But as you've seen, some of the directors are also involved in the subsidiary, so we need to disclose, and full disclosure requires total remuneration received. But the actual remuneration received that will be included in financial statements will only be those received with regards to the activity as a director or prescribed officer within the main company being Simba Limited. Then, as we've said, we need to distinguish between executive and non-executive directors as well as prescribed officers. Our executive directors are Mrs. Salt and Mrs. Vinegar. Why? Because Mrs. Salt is the financial director, so obviously involved in the day-to-day running of the business, and Mrs. Vinegar is a managing director, so also involved in the day-to-day running, so they should be seen as executive directors. The chairman of our board, Mr. Smokey, is only there to chair board meetings. So only being in these board meetings 4 times a year means he's non-executive. And that is why he is reflected here, Mr. Smokey as a non-executive director. Our prescribed officers for this example was Mrs. Chutney or Mr. Chutney, because Mr. Chutney was a regional manager. And a regional manager falls within the definition, as we've seen, of being a prescribed officer. Being engaged wholly or for a large part of the business and activities of the company falls under him, and therefore he will be classified as a prescribed officer. So we need to distinguish between the different sort of remuneration that they will receive. We need to exclude what was received from subsidiaries. Here we need to distinguish between the executive and non-executive directors, as well as your prescribed officers. So as far as remuneration is concerned, Mrs. Salt, as far as director's fees, remember we said each director will receive an amount of 625 Rand for each meeting that they attend. We had 4 board meetings. So it means for each meeting they receive 625 Rand, so it should be in total 625 times 4. But remember now, the financial director, which is Mrs. Salt, would have attended the board meetings of Simba Limited, but also being the chairman for Chips Limited, she would have attended all the meetings at Chips Limited as well. Therefore, she would receive 625 for the 4 board meetings at Simba Limited, as well as 625 Rand for the 4 board meetings at Chips Limited. So in total, 2,500 for Simba, 2,500 for Chips, in total 5,000 Rand. And that is why we reflect 5,000 as being the director's fee. As far as Mrs. Vinegar is concerned, she was only a director in Simba Limited, therefore 625 Rand for 4 meetings in Simba Limited and a director's fee of 2,500 Rand. And that would be the scenario for Mr. Smokey as well. only being a director for Simba Limited, attended 4 board meetings, so also entitled to director's fee of R2,500. Prescribed officers obviously don't attend these meetings, so 0 director's fee would be reflected for Mr. Chutney. As far as salary is concerned, Mrs. Salt, financial director, received R120,000 from Simba, but also being the chairman for CHIPS, another 15,000 received there. So the 135,000 here consisting then of the 120,000 from Simba Limited plus the 15,000 from CHIPS Limited. So in total, 135,000 remuneration as salary. Mrs. Vinegar, our managing director, received a salary of 160,000. And the regional manager, Mr. Chutney, 90,000. Hence, there's a disclosure here of 160 for Mrs. Vinegar and the 90,000 for Mr. Chutney, our prescribed officer, in the form of a salary. Other benefits, as we've said, would be either entertainment, traveling, spending allowances that they received. In our example, that would be the traveling allowance for our managing director, Mrs. Vinegar, of 6,000. And the entertainment allowance for the regional manager, Mr. Chutney, of 3,000. So other benefits, we disclosed the 6,000 there for Mrs. Vinegar and the 3,000 for Mr. Chutney. As far as the pension fund contributions are concerned, those were only made for the financial director, Mrs. Salt, 12,000, and for Mr. Smokey, the chairman of our board, the 6,000. So we will disclose those two then, the 12,000 on a pension fund for Mrs. Salt and the 6,000 for Mr. Smokey, our non-executive director. The amount that was then paid by the subsidiary would have been the payments made to Mrs. Salt by CHIPS Limited, the subsidiary company, and that is included in all these amounts. So what does this consist of? It consists of the 15,000 that he received from CHIPS Limited. Remember, this 15,000 as being the chairman of the CHIPS board, as well as the attendance of the 4 board meetings at CHIP Limited, for which she would have been paid R625 per meeting. So 15 plus the 2,500 that comes from the board meetings, meaning subsidiary paid a total amount of 17,500. And that is why we subtracted there to disclose in total remuneration received by Mrs. Salt from Simba Limited was 134,500. So you still need to disclose the total amount that they received from all companies within the group, but what will be disclosed in the financial statements of Simba Limited would only be the amount of 134,500 directly received from Simba. For Mrs. Vinegar, straightforward, directors, the salary and other benefits, which add up to 168,500. Mr. Smokey, director fee and pension fund contributions add up to 8,500. And Mrs. Chutney, the 90 and 3, that adds up to 93,000. So if we add all this together, this would be the total remuneration paid to our directors and prescribed officers. Now, the final component is then just to show this other benefits of 9,000. What does those consist of? So we'll have just a separate part of the note showing other benefits. This was for Mrs. Vinegar and Mr. Chutney. Mrs. Vinegar, 6,000 was for travel, and that 6,000 then goes to the other benefits in the main note. And Mr. Chutney received a 3,000 entertainment allowance. And that would be then the 9,000 as being reflected under other benefits. So all that we show in the main note is under other benefits is the total amount that we received, because this amount can consist of different components of allowances, and then just have a separate note for the other benefits to show exactly who received their payment and what was it for travel and for entertainment allowance of 6,000 and 3,000 respectively, to give us a total of 9,000. And that is it for this little session. I do trust that it was insightful, that you enjoyed it. And as mentioned, if anything was not really clear to you, please get in touch, engage with us, and we can have a further discussion on the disclosure of directors and prescribed officers' remuneration. Thank you so much. Keep well.